Hello and welcome to the Professor Putricide Heroic Guide from LearnToPlayWow.com, brought to you with the help of Guild Rise from Xavius. From my point of view, the Professor is one of the hardest, if not the hardest encounter in ICC Heroic before the Lich King. I believe it to be harder even than Sindragosa. This is why this guide will be a bit longer than usual, but hopefully it will reduce the number of wipes needed to take down the boss. The first major changes for the heroic mode are during the transition phases. No more freezing of everyone during the transitions. Instead, everyone can move in DPS as normal, but 2 ads spawn at the same time, one green, one brown. In 25 men, half of your raid will be able to only DPS one ad, the other half the other ad. Healers will be unaffected. While he is casting, look at your debuff. If you get the green one, DPS the green ad. If you get the brown debuff, DPS the brown ad. Surviving the transition phases with little or no deaths is instrumental into assuring a final kill. You will want to have as many members alive for phase 3. The first thing that you can do to improve your chances during the transition is not to use your DPS cooldowns at the beginning of the battle, but to save them for the transition. I know most people are used to popping their cooldowns as the battle begins. It's become almost a reflex, but don't do that. Save them. You will get a green ad, then a brown one, and then you will have the first transition. So, first transition, use trinkets and cooldowns. Second transition, use bloodlust heroism. This brings us to the next issue, the ads before the transition. You really wish to avoid having an ad up while going into the transition, cause then you will get free ads and that's hard to deal with. Often enough we could go into the transition just as the second ad, the brown one, was about to spawn. You need someone to shout out which way to go, either stop DPS or push the transition. I would recommend stopping DPS at around 82% and waiting for the brown ad. Why? Because this gives enough time for the internal cooldown on your trinkets to refresh itself. This way, Deathbringer's Wheel will proc once as the battle starts and then again during the transition. Also, waiting a bit gives more time for the player controlling the abomination to gather enough energy to slow down both ads in the transition. We start DPSing the green ads as they spawn, and this is valid throughout the entire fight. The melees stand on top of it, the ranged are at max range. Melees need to stack all on one side, towards the middle of the room. This way, when it explodes, it sends everyone in the same direction, and closer to the ranged. As the ad picks up a new target, that target will be towards the inside of the room, and thus both ranged and melee will have an easier time getting in range and DPSing the ad. If you would do the opposite, if you were to sit on the exterior, you would be pushed towards the wall. If you would then be targeted, all the ranged would have to move in order to get in range of ad. Not to mention that you wouldn't be at max explosion range from that ad, because you were sent into the wall, so you didn't fly far enough. Also, you will not have enough people stacking on you to absorb the damage and some will die. There is, however, the issue of someone getting targeted by the brown ad while being in the melee explosion group. The explosion basically sends that player towards the inside of the room, towards the brown ad. Quick reaction time is key. It happened to me once and I intervened another player. It happened to a druid on another occasion and he sprinted away. It's about RNG. You just need to know it can happen so you won't be taken completely by surprise. On the brown ad, the melees get close to the spawn area as the ad is getting ported in. Do this only during the transition. You get close, get 1-2 hits and then quickly run out before it starts targeting. Don't be greedy, play smart and run away with time to spare. The brown ad does damage to the raid based on how long has passed since he targeted. Basically, if he reaches you after a while, it's not that of a big deal, but if he reaches you right then and there, then that's it, it's a wipe. Remember to also run away from him when he starts casting. Even if he seems low on HP, let the ranged finish him. Don't risk it. The main tank should try to keep the boss close to the ads as that will bring some extra cleave damage. Move the boss each time vials or goo are in the area. On 10 men the transition is different. There are no debuffs, so you are free to DPS any ad. Get the green one down first and then the brown one. This is where part 1 ends. Check description for part 2. In part 2 I will cover the plague, phase 3 as well as other various boss abilities.